All right, I'm talking about the rising sign. So the rising sign is that's your body, and so when you look at somebody, right, you see somebody, and you judge them based off of your first seeing them with your eye, right? First impressions. How does this person present themselves to the world? This person, are they presenting themselves in a big way? Are they trying to show off? Are they a person that looks, strong? Like they look strong because they have a physical body that is, chiseled and crafted and is built. Does this person, look like a person who likes to talk a lot? When I look at that person, I say, damn, I think I can talk to that person. Or I look at that person and I say, damn, that person is very big, very large. This person looks like to be like, if I said something to them, they would start crying like a bitch. They are, very emotional. It's all based off of appearances and how you look to people, just based on first impressions. So it's basically your body is what I like to equate it to, how you look. That is part of who you are, because that's how people see you. Upon just, I could glance over there and I can see all these people, right? And I can see somebody who looks more approachable than the next person, like somebody that I would want to talk to. But then I can also look at those people and see all the ones that I don't want to fuck with. But that's the thing, it's the rising sign. I don't know if any of those other people, one of those other people could be really cool and want to talk to me and want to hang out and want to, but I'm looking at these people and I see somebody with, I don't know, some anime shit on, and I'm like, oh fuck, that person's cool. But then when I go to talk to them, they're like, oh no, I don't want to talk. Or and then that person that I didn't talk to, they could have been into hearing me talk about my situation, or I just didn't do that because of the first impression. And I was looking at their rising sign, I was looking at their body, and I was saying, and everybody is guilty of that. Everybody does that. But you gotta try to not judge a book by its cover. Like me, the Green Angel, I'll tell you about mine later, but that's the thing about the rising sign, is your first impressions. It's how you present yourself to the world, as far as your looks go. And that does initiate most of your relationships in life. Either they're gonna see you for what you're trying to show them, or they're gonna see you a certain way because of the rising sign that you have. And then you kind of know that moving forward, because a lot of people have came to you and was like, oh, you seem like a person I want to talk to. You have that kind of look, or you have a look of a person that's very you carry yourself to in a way that is different than everybody else, and people love to be around you, or want to be around you, want to hear what you have to say. Or maybe you're just a person that people want to confide in because you look strong, you look put together. It all depends on the sign, and I'll run that by you. This is the rising sign. I'll be talking about that for the next 3 weeks. I was gonna go into the moon sign, but then I was like, I'll wait for that since it's still Gemini season, so I'll do this instead. So that's what the rising sign is, or it's also called the Ascendant, and that's your first house in astrology. You get this specific thing when you have the time of birth. See, you need the time of birth in astrology to get that part. All right. So for me, I was born like at 12:05 a.m. in Germany, 26 years ago. So my rising sign's in Sagittarius, 25.8 degrees, you know. But yeah, that is the rising sign, what it is. And now I'm gonna, go over each of the 12 signs and what it means. When you have that rising sign. But be cool on the corner.